Hi everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled AND, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first coincidence miracle today is from a woman who tells us that her sister was born 12 years ago, and the doctors held very little hope for the child to ever overcome some birth defects. They also said that the child would never reach average intelligence and would always be a quadriplegic, which means 4 limbs, 2 arms and 2 legs would be paralyzed for life. So the child was going to be committed to a wheelchair. However, the family had very deep faith. I don't know which church they belonged to, but they had very deep faith, and the entire family apparently belongs to the same church. And they all asked the church and joined the church in praying for the child. And the child is now 12 years old and has graduated from grammar school and is not a quadriplegic, a very average, very normal child, active in all sports, graduated grammar school with high grades. And all of this is a tribute to prayer, the power of prayer and faith. I know I'm sharing this story, and there's been millions upon millions of stories like this over the last 2,000 years. If you visit some of the shrines in Canada, some churches in Canada, you'll notice wheelchairs and crutches showing all around the church or in the basements from people who went there with crutches and wheelchairs and got up and walked away cured from the shrines in Canada. But certainly Our Lady of Lourdes shrine in France and Our Lady of Fatima shrine in Portugal. Also, both of them also, if you go there, you'll see many wheelchairs and crutches indicating people came there with them and left without them. Our next coincidence miracle is something that happened to me recently. I met with 4 women. They were in their 60s. They have been together ever since the 3rd grade. They socialized quite a bit. They bonded since 3rd grade, and they're now in their 60s. Bonded. Some of their family members have intermarried. Their husbands have become close friends, play golf together, etc. But the unique thing about them was that they were working on a project for their next book club meeting. They have a book club, and they've been sharing, recently they've been sharing about the Bible and coming up with some fascinating input from people who read the Bible and share their feelings every month. And so they asked me, because they knew about my book and our website, they asked me if I could share a few things that I have learned over the years by teaching Sunday school for 45 years and writing 2 books and giving lectures, etc. So it's a coincidence miracle for me, because I was working on pulling together things that I would put into my next book precisely along the same lines. Things that I've learned in the process of evangelizing and teaching and writing 2 books and giving many presentations, answering a lot of questions. So I've learned some powerful things that are life-changing. So I shared a few of them. I'll share them with you. The first thing I learned that's very powerful is that if you investigate the lives of saints, you'll find out that we've had 10,000 saints, 10,000 over the last 2,000 years. And their lives have all been documented. In order to be called a saint, they have to have certain things happen in their life. And one of the things that has to happen is that after they die, we need to see signs of 2 miracles that happen because we ask them to intercede with Jesus, or we ask God to use them and show us that these people were saints by, we're asking for evidence from heaven and evidence from God that they are saints now that they have passed on. So that's what's done when we decide to call somebody a saint. And one of the things you'll learn if you Google any saint's name you want and read their life story, you'll notice that the largest, more than average of the saints have mental telepathy with God. That's a very important factor, because the Bible says, ask God and he'll help you, and ministers preach to everybody, ask God and he'll help you. But what we need to tell people is you're going to most likely get answers from God with mental telepathy. This is evidenced by the word inspired, for example. The word inspired means the Spirit comes into you and talks to you. The word idea means Deo, the Latin word for God. Idea means Deo, God is talking to you. And women's intuition, you pay tuition for being tutored, and so intuition implies you're being tutored. So if you're going to ask God questions, you should expect mentally to get inspirations and ideas mentally and intuitions as answers, and not expect to hear an actual sound. The next thing I've learned, which is very powerful and very important for people to know about, a typical Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, has 2,000 pages. And there's 5 words in the Bible. I read the Bible many times, and after reading it many, many times, I noticed there's 5 words in the Bible that say, only one thing is necessary. Let me say that again. There's 5 words in the Bible, and it says this: only one thing is necessary. Now, if the Bible has 2,000 pages and it's documented something like 5,000 years of history between God and mankind, and the Bible, a history book and a holy book, is telling us only one thing is necessary, then everybody should know what it says. I'll tell you where it is. It's in the book of Luke, chapter 10. Once again, it's in the book of Luke, spelled L-U-K-E, book of Luke, chapter 10. And what it says is this: all you ever really have to do is ask God questions. Let me say that again. All you really ever have to do is ask God questions. And then, because he loves you and he cares about you, he's going to answer your questions. So you can ask him anything. Ask him what house to buy, what car to buy, what city to live in, what job to take, who to marry, who to date, etc., etc., etc. And if you ask God questions and he gives you answers, you'll be having a most wonderful life. The next thing I am happy to tell people that I learned in my life of pursuing friendship with God is that the Bible is very clear, especially in Psalm 139. Again, Psalm 139. If you read Psalm 139, you'll notice that it says that God is everywhere, and it explains it very carefully. So if indeed God is everywhere, just ponder that for a while, meditate on it for a while, ask God to help you perceive things about it. If God is everywhere, then it means that he's present in every drop of water. He's present in every drop of blood. If God is everywhere, he has to be everywhere. And every thing, every confined thing, everything that is confined, like a drop of water, it has barriers to it to keep it so that it remains always a drop of water. Then God has to be present within those confines. And so God is present in the whole universe, in every molecule, in every atom, and that teaches us a lot of things. And one of the things that it teaches us is that God existed before anything tangible was ever made, before any planets, any stars, before anything was ever made. God always existed. And therefore, since God is everywhere, God was present in every molecule and every atom in all of infinite space. And therefore, when he created things, the atoms and molecules that were his invisible presence took on visibility when God made tangible things. So all of the atoms and molecules that existed that were invisible now took on tangibility. So the planet Earth is really created out of the atoms and molecules that were once invisible atoms of God. And so this is like, if you study about squid and octopus, if you study about the squid version, you'll find that a squid can land on a rock and pretty quickly convert all of its atoms and molecules to look like the rock and camouflage itself. So a squid can land on a rock or a plant and make itself look like the rock or the plant. That's because its atoms and molecules now change appearance and now look like the rock or the plant. And so similarly, at least in my mind's eye, God filled all of the universe before he made tangible things, and he was in every atom and molecule of space. And when those molecules became tangible, like the stars and the planets, etc., then God existed in everything again. And the Bible tells us that we live and move and have our being in God. Again, you'll notice the Bible says, in him we live and move and have our being. That's like saying God is a vast ocean and we are floating around in his ocean. You'll find this in the Bible in the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 28. Once again, in the Bible, book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 28, tells us that in him we live and move and have our being. Our next coincidence miracle is from a woman who tells us that she texted her friend that she was not going to meet her at Mass on one Sunday morning. She said, I'm not going to be able to come to Mass. It's raining cats and dogs. It's torrential out here. I'm not going to be able to make it to Mass. Her friend texted back and said, don't be silly. Let's just pray and ask God to stop the storm and get you there without getting wet. And the next thing that happened, they prayed, and she started to drive. The rain stopped. The sun came out. She got to the church parking lot, and just before she pulled into the parking lot, a car passed her with a license plate number 777, and the gospel reading for the day was Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to 41, which is exactly Jesus stopping the storm in the gospel. So this was a wonderful miracle. The gospel for the Mass actually said what happened, and he actually stopped the storm until she got to church. So she got to church on Sunday and attended the Mass. A miracle indeed. I think it's important to remember Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to 41. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.